Dead by Daylight has been around since 2016, and it's an asymmetrical multiplayer survival horror online game developed by Behaviour Interactive. It's a very fun game that I've been playing for a good few years now, with a good variety of survivors and killers to choose from. It's a 4v1 game where 4 survivors have to try and escape what is known as a trial. Trying to stop them is the killer, whose objective it is to sacrifice all 4 survivors before they escape the trial. Now, Dead by Daylight, or DBD as I might call it in this video, is constantly evolving and changing, with balancing changes and tweaks being constantly done. So if I do say anything in this video that is now incorrect or out of date, please let me know in the comments below. I'm very aware that the mid-chapter update literally just went live. That shouldn't affect anything that I say in this video, but if I do get something wrong and it's been changed, then please let me know in the comments. And without further ado, let's talk about Dead by Daylight. Dead by Daylight has 2 forms of gameplay. On one hand, we have survivor side of the game, and on the other hand, we have the killer side. Starting with the survivor side, as of the time of this video, there are a total of 36 survivors to choose from, each with their own 3 unique perks for you to use. These perks are unique to each survivor, but can be unlocked for all survivors to use as you progress, but we'll talk about that more later. When playing a survivor in Dead by Daylight, you have one main objective the entire game. Repair 5 generators to power the exit gates, and then open these gates to escape the trial. Repairing generators involves skill checks, a quick pop-up on screen that you need to hit to continue repairing. If you miss a skill check, the killer gets a noise notification and can track you more easily. If you hit a great skill check, you repair the generators slightly faster. Of course, while you're repairing these generators, the killer will be actively looking for you, trying to interrupt you and stall your progress. You can avoid and hide from the killer in some situations, which can confuse them, and if you're lucky, they'll immediately give up searching and go to try and find someone else. If you're unlucky, then this will lead to a chase. Getting chased in Dead by Daylight is arguably the most fun part of the game. When getting chased, there are a few things you can do to prevent the killer from attacking you. The first and most obvious thing to do is to run away. One of the best things to do when getting chased is to make as much distance as you can away from the killer. The next most obvious thing to do is to use pallets. Dropping pallets on the killer stuns them momentarily. You can also pre-drop pallets. This won't stun a killer, but it will put an obstacle between you and them. Killers can break pallets, but they can also go around them and use them to mind game a survivor. You can also bait a pallet drop. Some killers will respect a pallet, meaning they'll try and avoid being stunned by a pallet, so you can use this to your advantage. Sometimes by running through a pallet, and then the killer is going to assume, okay, this survivor's going to drop it, and so they respect it, they move backwards to avoid the stun range. You don't drop it, and instead keep running, and then all of a sudden you've made some extra distance because they've decided they wanted to avoid the stun. Moving on from open chase, you may come across areas known as TNLs or jungle gyms. These areas can be used for both your advantage, but also the killer's advantage. This is the other half of chase in Dead by Daylight. The first half is just running, making distance, dropping pallets to create distance or stun the killer. This other half is where mind games really come into play. You need to be able to predict what the killer is going to do, or you need to be able to outsmart them or outpsych them. Understanding how killers play can really help to improve your chances of surviving at certain loops and mind-gameable areas. Your last option can always be to just run away from the loop itself, which can sometimes be a really good move to make, as some killers will try to mind game at a loop and you can just leave instead. Now, if worst comes to worst and the killer does injure you and down you, you will most likely be picked up, carried and put onto a sacrificial hook. During the carry stage, you can hit skill checks to try and wiggle out of the killer's grasp. If this doesn't work, you will be hooked. Every survivor needs to be hooked 3 times for them to die, or they need to remain on the hook long enough to reach stage 2 and then stage 3, which kills them. You can attempt to unhook yourself 3 times, but it has only a 4% chance of working and speeds up the sacrificial process. What makes Survivor a bit more bearable is getting items. You can obtain toolboxes, medkits, flashlights, maps and keys. Toolboxes will help you progress generators faster and also allow you to sabotage hooks. Medkits allow you to heal yourself and others. Flashlights allow you to blind the killer and save survivors from their grasp if you blind them. Maps can reveal key information in the trial, and keys can be used to unlock the hatch if it is closed. The hatch is an available option to the last survivor alive in a trial, but the killer can close it. The hatch makes an audible humming sound that both the killer and the survivors can hear. If the killer does close it, then a key can unlock it again. The only other part of survivor gameplay is what I would call side objectives. So you can search and unlock chests on the map for items. You can also find and cleanse skull totems or bless them depending on your perks. These are not necessary to progress your main objective, but they do award bonus blood points and are extra objectives to be completed. Moving on from survivor, we now have the killer side of gameplay. As the killer, you need to find, hook and sacrifice all 4 survivors before they repair all the generators and open the gates and escape. Every killer has a normal melee attack that can injure and down a survivor, but each killer has a unique ability or power. This ability or power is what can give you the advantage, or sometimes disadvantage, depending on the map and the layout of that map. There are 31 killers you can choose from as of this video. Learning killer can take a lot more time and patience than survivor. The basics of every killer are usually the same, but because each killer has a unique ability or power, you'll need to play these killers multiple times to start to fully understand their power and improve with them. As a killer, you see in first person rather than the third person afforded to survivors. This means you play differently to how you would play a survivor. When playing as killer, you need to constantly pay attention to your surroundings, and using your ears will be your best friend. You need to look out for scratch marks that appear in the environment where survivors have been running. If a survivor is injured, they will leave a blood trail behind them whether they run or walk, and will also make noise because they are grunting in pain. These are your main tools to use when tracking and hunting survivors. Now, survivors will constantly try to evade and avoid you and make distance in chase. When it comes to loops and different tiles in the game, this is where mind games come into play. Survivors need to try and predict what you will do as the killer, so in return, you need to try and predict what they are trying to predict you will do and not do it. This is the fun of Dead by Daylight, constantly trying to understand your opponent, trying to outsmart your opponent, trying to mind game them and outthink them. You may struggle early on when trying out killer, but playing it more and more will help you understand how to mind game and mess with survivors. As a killer, you do not get items like survivors. Instead, you take 2 add-ons for your ability or power if you wish. These add-ons can improve your power, whether they reduce a charge speed or make something faster. You can also get add-ons that completely alter how a power works or functions. And there are even add-ons, known as meme add-ons, that make your power worse, but you get awarded more blood points for using them. The one thing that killer and survivor both have in common is perks. Both killers and survivors can equip 4 perks, and this is what leads people in DBD to call builds. A good build usually consists of 4 perks that work in synergy. As a survivor, your perks will usually work in synergy with each other and can also work even better with certain items. As a killer, your perks should work in synergy with each other, but also they should work in synergy with your power and then by extension, your add-ons too. Creating different builds is where more fun comes from in DBD, experimenting with different perks to see how they work, altering your playstyles based around your perks and power, seeing what you enjoy using and what you don't. It allows for a lot of different playstyles, and it means you can constantly play in a different way. Most online games, Dead by Daylight does have a progression system. You have your account level, levels up naturally as you play. You have a killer rank and a survivor rank. These go up depending on how well you play each game, and on the 13th of every month they reset, but you gain blood points depending on what rank you manage to get to. You then have survivor levels and killer levels, and this is where blood points come into play. You can use blood points in the blood web of any character, and this is where you get new perks, items and add-ons. Once a survivor or killer reaches level 50 in the blood web, you can prestige them. Every character can be prestiged 100 times, and your prestige level is shown on every character in lobbies to so much time you've dedicated to leveling them up. When you prestige a character for the first 3 times, you gain their perks for all other characters. This is what I mentioned previously when I said you could gain a character's perk for all other characters. Prestiging characters and getting their perks unlocked for everyone is absolutely necessary for being able to create some of the best builds, because you need a variety of perks from different characters. To help with progression, there are challenges you can equip for both survivor games and killer games. You equip these challenges in the archives. By completing archive challenges, you gain more blood points, and you also slowly unlock the lore of Dead by Daylight. This gives the game more depth than just being an online 4v1 game, and it makes the characters and the mysterious world of the fog far more interesting. You also get daily rituals to complete. These are usually slightly easier than archive challenges, and you get new ones every day provided you completed the previous day's rituals. Customization in Dead by Daylight is available for both survivors and killers, and there are some really good looking skins you can get. Some can be earned through iridescent shards, which you gain by just leveling up your account. Some can be unlocked through the battle pass, some on the free pass but most on the premium. And the last way to get cosmetics is usually to just open up your wallet and buy Auric cells. Auric cells are the premium currency in Dead by Daylight, used to buy most cosmetic items, and can also be used to purchase new chapters from within the game if you don't want to spend money buying the whole chapter. There are also event cosmetics that come along every so often that can be earned during the time period of that event, but for the most part, if you want some of the nicer cosmetics, you will need to pay for them. This does kind of suck in a way, but at the same time the battle pass does kind of negate this problem, as you can progress through the pass, buy it, and then get a bunch of cosmetics in one go. The one cosmetic I do have a problem with in this game is charms. Charms in DBD just look tacky and dumb, and they just feel like an excuse for the devs to crank out easier and lazier cosmetics to fill up the passes with. They look okay on hooks, but on Survivor they are literally pointless because you can barely see them anyway. Dead by Daylight, as of this video, has a total of 214 achievements that are worth 4,070 gamer score in total as of the recording. A lot of the achievements in DBD are fairly similar. Adept achievements for Survivor involve only using that character's perks and escaping. Adept Killer is exactly the same, but you need to kill all 4 survivors. After these, there are achievements specific to killer powers and using them to do a certain action X amount of times. These are not awful, they just take some time. Moving on from these, there are achievements specific to each map where you need to repair a certain generator in the main building of that map and then also escape. There are also more specific achievements, such as grabbing a certain amount of survivors off of gens, or stunning a killer with pallets X amount of times. Some of these achievements may force you to go out of your way to play differently than how you usually would, but for the most part, you will just get them as you play. Overall, the achievements in DBD aren't too awful. They can just take a lot of time to complete, or they can just be very, very specific in how you need to play. Most average players won't get all of them, but if you're a consistent player, you will gain a decent percentage of them, and if you're like me and you hunt for achievements, then you will, of course, eventually get them all. Dead by Daylight is, overall, a pretty fun experience. Playing Survivor and getting chased is extremely fun, and is even better with friends. Playing as Killer and learning how best to use your power and ability is also fun, and is very satisfying when you win chases. One thing to watch out for when playing this game is that, unfortunately, sometimes you will come across very toxic players that can really spoil the experience. Whether this be griefers or just people who are very salty at the end of a game. This doesn't happen all the time though, and thankfully the majority of the Dead by Daylight community are very nice people who just want to have fun and see the game thrive. In conclusion, I definitely recommend Dead by Daylight. It's a fun game for solo players and friendship groups alike, and the more you play, the better you'll become. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please leave a like and subscribe for more videos like this one. I hope you're all doing well. Thank you so much for watching, and hopefully I'll see you all in the next one. Stay safe, guys.